Hi everyone and welcome back. So finally I'm making another video after being absent for probably a few months, maybe two. I've been doing a little bit of different things than usual, not related to cars. I've been actually filming videos and car content, but I just wasn't able to upload and edit them. So anyway, this is my first in a 2 months video. Somewhat it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit of talking. Actually, I'm going to share with you the list of every single car that I've owned throughout my car life, and it's I just want to say that it's fairly small, just because I think I got my driver's license back in 2016. Okay, so I made a quick list on just regular notebook. There is a total of 16 cars, and let's just begin with the first one. And the first one is really special. Obviously, it's my very first car, and it was a big deal for me. So I'm going to actually name the vehicle, the spec, and also the amount of money that I spend on it, what I've done to it, and how much I sold it for, and how many miles I've put on it. So it's going to be for every single vehicle. That's why I've made a list, just because it's quite a bit of information to memorize for me. So anyway, the first one was 2003 Audi A4. It was a B6 body style. It was finished in dolphin gray metallic, and it had a gray leather interior. So anyhow, this car had a 4-cylinder 1.8 liter turbo engine. It was equipped with a really nice all-wheel drive system, aka Quattro by Audi. So it was pretty good on snow. Unfortunately, it was an automatic transmission, 5-speed automatic, not the greatest, just a regular Tiptronic with a manual mode and a sport mode, which actually just rev the gear a little bit higher than a regular drive mode. So anyway, I've purchased this car. It was $3,700. I remember it had brand new tires, cracked windshield, and it was somewhat clean. It had a few dents and probably just a few scratches. I don't have that many pictures just because it's been a long time ago, and unfortunately I wasn't filming and I wasn't a YouTuber back then. So anyway, I kind of regret not filming that, but I'll just share every single photo that I have. Anyway, the car had 82,000 miles, and considering that I paid only $3,700, it's never been an accident, and it was clean title. It was a pretty good deal to me. Actually did amazing in the winter, just considering the fact that I've lived in northeast Wyoming and it was snowing like crazy over there. It helped me a lot. And actually one of the really exciting adventures that I had with that car was just winter driving, just literally turning the traction control off and doing my first beginner skids and drifts in my Audi. And probably the worst thing that happened to me while I had that car would be that I've put a brand new fuel pump, and the fuel pump came with the gaskets, but unfortunately they sent me a wrong gasket, so it actually didn't fit. But I didn't see it till the moment I went to the gas station, and I was like, yeah, I got a new fuel pump, let me just fill it up all the way. And I put a premium tank of gas in there, and after it actually filled half a tank, the rest of half of it started to spill on the ground right at the gas station. It was a really weird situation, kind of dangerous, but actually the clerk from the gas station helped me kind of absorb all of that excess of gas and helped me clean everything. So then I went back to the shop, pulled the fuel pump out and put the new seals in there, and it never happened again. So anyway, sometimes it happens, and this is actually when it's all started for me as far as my BMW life goes. And actually it was my first E46. I always loved this body style, and I thought it was literally one of the greatest BMWs as far as design goes and just overall condition and the quality, and I still believe that it's true. Anyhow, my second car was 2001 BMW 330 Ci. It was finished in gorgeous Oxford green over tan interior, leather interior. Obviously it's going to be tan because that's how BMW decided that it just makes sense. Anyway, it was a 5-speed manual car. It had bunch of accidents. It was a rebuilt title, which I didn't know, but again, I didn't know that many things about the cars, period. So I bought it for $5,300 from a mechanic, and it had a bunch of miles. It had 171,000 miles, but it was modified. It had like exhaust intake. What else it had? It had like tune, and I think it had headers, catless headers, which was a big deal because it sounded amazing. Actually, it was a pretty good car, and yeah, I've enjoyed the hell out of it. I've put a bunch of miles on it. Actually, I sold it for $6,800 with 189,000 miles. So I've put over, what is it, 18,000 miles on it throughout, I think it was under 2 years of me owning that car. I've did a few modifications. I think I've put a new suspension in it, refreshed the cooling system, and put a new wheels in it, which was a big deal just because, as I said, it was my first car experience where I actually started to dive into mechanical aspect of it and learning more about this platform. So the coolest thing about this car, the cons are just overall great car, and the greatest memory would be me driving this car first time to California. It was a big deal, big road trip through the canyons and through the desert. It was amazing. Literally, it was a blast to drive. And the worst thing that happened to me is I was actually putting in new sway bar links on the car, and I was using not the greatest quality jack stands that I bought from AutoZone. So anyway, when I set the car on two jack stands, the front of the vehicle, one of the jack stand decided to fold on me, and literally the car dropped on the ground. But luckily it didn't break anything or didn't damage oil pan or anything like that, but still it was kind of scary, and that's good. That's a good thing that I wasn't under the car. Anyway, let's move on to the third vehicle in a little bit different environment. Let's just see, the third car that I had on the list was a little bit something different, something that I really wanted to try, and it was my 2008 Audi A4. It was a B7 body style, S-line with a bunch of options. It was really desirable color combination. It was white exterior over black leather. Had a lot of cool options, navigation screen, that kind of stuff. And it was a 4-cylinder 2.0 turbo with a 6-speed manual transmission, which was really exciting. I thought it would be exciting, but for some reason the car wasn't as quick as I expected it to be. Not that it was something wrong with it mechanically, it's just it was a bone stock car and just a 4-cylinder, but still it was pretty cool. Owning the vehicle. It was also great on snow and pretty good on fuel economy. And actually, one of the coolest thing that I've did with that car was a road trip from San Diego back to Jackson, where I lived that time, because I purchased the car from Southern California. By the way, I bought it for $5,500 and it had 152,000 miles. It was a one-owner car, a really clean example. Didn't put that many miles on it. I think I put around 3,000 miles on it. As I said, this one was mostly just for me learning the platform and just trying what this is. As I said, it wasn't really exciting to me, that's why I didn't keep it, but I also didn't make that much money on it. So I sold it with 155,000 miles and sold it for $6,800. So the fourth car, it was a really special vehicle to me. This is pretty much a classic from late 1980s. Classic design, and I actually regret, this is one and only car that I literally regret selling. That was my 1988 BMW 325iX. It was a E30 body style, the sexiest body that I think ever been produced from the classic BMWs. I had a blast with that car. It was actually funny that when I found that car in Idaho on Craigslist, I was communicating with the person that was selling it over the email, and he was saying that yeah, the car is still for sale, but unfortunately you are second in line. The guy is flying in from Montana to look at this car, and most likely he's going to buy it. And I literally was like, oh yeah, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And looks like the guy is serious if he's flying all the way down to Idaho from Montana. So anyway, the guy flew in, he looked at the car, he didn't want to buy it, he liked the car but didn't like it as so much to actually put a bid on it and actually buy it. So I looked at it and I was really excited. The guy literally emailed me the same day and said, yeah, the car's still available. He didn't buy it. So I rushed all the way to Idaho from Jackson, Wyoming, and looked at the car, got really excited, paid the guy cash money. It was $3,400. The car was a clean title, never been in an accident, rust free. It was a 5-speed manual. I'm going to show a few pictures, and it had 143,000 miles. High on the mileage, but again, those cars literally go forever if everything is taken care of as far as maintenance goes. Had an M20 2.5 engine, I think. So yeah, it was really fun car. I had a blast with it. Anyway, I've put over 3,000 miles on it, and I sold it for $4,800. And you will never believe who I sold it to. To the guy who's originally flew in to look at it, and he wanted to buy it, but he didn't. And then after I've reconditioned it and had my fun with it, he actually flew in again from Montana to Jackson, and he bought it. So anyway, that's a cool story. Yeah, and actually I have a fun one. I took this car to local Cars and Coffee on Saturday, I remember, and I've also done, once again, a fuel pump on it just because the car literally died on the side of the road. And I did a new fuel pump, and I didn't do the fuel filter, which I thought that it wouldn't be a big deal, but again, it was an old car and actually was mandatory to do fuel filter, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I went to Cars and Coffee. There was a bunch of older guys driving Ferraris, Aston Martins, but they really like my car because again, it's a timeless design and it looks amazing. I made it pretty good looking. And after we had done having our talk and had our coffee, everybody took off, and I kind of took my sweet time and started the car. Actually tried to start the car, and it was cranking but wasn't starting. I've tried it again, tried it like 4 times, and just decided not to start. And I was like, I just put a new fuel pump in it, what's the problem? And turns out that since I didn't put a new fuel filter, the car was choking and had a vapor lock. So I had to wait for about an hour, and then the car would start. And actually I have a picture of my car sitting on the road, on the side of the road, while everybody already took off, and my car is just still sitting there waiting for those fuel fumes to evaporate. But anyway, it was an amazing car, and I really regret selling it. The next car would be, it was a 2003 BMW 330i, just a sedan in a beautiful mystic blue over brown interior. Bought this car from Copart. It was my very first vehicle that I purchased from a insurance auction. I got it for $1,350. It was sideswiped, had 143,000 miles, and it was a 6-speed manual out of California. I did a few things on it. I think I did also a spark plugs, changed all the drive belts and pulleys, and I think I did a cooling system on it. That was a really nice car, but as I said, it wasn't sideswipe. It wasn't in the really greatest condition as far as paint goes. So since it was a California car, the paint on the roof was faded, and I had to pay a bunch of money for a body shop to respray it. Anyway, it didn't really turn as good as I wanted it to be, but still it was a really beautiful car, and the spec was amazing. One of the coolest experiences is me and my roommate actually driving it up the mountain, and I was driving the green car. I still had my green 2001 330 Ci, and she was driving this sedan, this HP one. So anyway, it was kind of cool. Sold it for $4,800. The guy was happy with the deal. I was also happy just because I was over this car, and again, it wasn't the cleanest example, or at least not as clean as I wanted it to be for me to keep it. So the next one would be in a different spot. And the next vehicle would be my 2006 Audi S4. Always wanted to have this car. Just the idea of having all-wheel drive and V8 in a smaller size sedan was really fascinating to me. And this one was a 6-speed. It was also from the insurance auction. It was a front-end collision, and I think this was my very first vehicle that I did such a big not maintenance but just repair on it. I literally took the whole front end apart and put used parts in it. It was a budget build, so I didn't go crazy on as far as putting brand new parts, but it looked fine and it was functional. So anyway, it was a salvage car that I bought for $2,050 out of Denver, Colorado. Also, I spent like $700 to get it shipped to where I was, so it was kind of a little bit more money. Had 143,000 miles, was black on black, pretty good spec. I'm not a fan of black cars. Actually, it was one and only black car that I've owned, but I think black with the chrome accents on S4 it looked pretty good. Interior was really clean, and from the cool moments, just it was a really good learning curve for me as far as mechanical goes, and I think that's when I actually started filming a few videos. But again, I didn't have my YouTube, so I just had a few pieces of content with this car. One of the funniest and unfortunate experience that I had with that car was that my very first time I started, everything went perfect, and I was like, yeah, let me just take this car and take it on a test drive. And I forgot to connect one of the clamps for the expansion tank and a coolant hose. So after the vehicle fully warmed up, the fluid started to expand, and it actually started to let's just say disconnect the coolant hoses from the expansion tank, and I had that big trace of coolant on the road, and it was just at night, and it was funny. I think I have a photo of this as well. Anyway, I sold the car for $5,600, and I think I've put around 3,000 miles on it. Not much, but again, it was a learning curve for me, and I had my fun with it. The guy was really happy once again, but I think after about 6 months of owning it, he totaled it, and he actually got paid off on it way more than he bought the car for. So it was actually a good situation for him. The next car would be my Stanced Out 2002 BMW 325 wagon. It was a rare spec just because it was a sport package with a 5-speed manual transmission. It was really hard to find it. The car wasn't the cleanest. They had a few rust spots. I think actually it was my very first car with rust, and one and only, I think. On that car, I've already started filming as far as YouTube goes, and I did a lot of cool things with it. I was drifting in a desert, I was repairing it in my shop, and did a few bits of content on it. There was a pretty good learning curve once again, and I bought it for $3,000 with 153,000 miles, and sold it for $6,000 with 163,000 miles. So 10,000 miles. I owned it for less than a year, but I took it on a lot of road trips, so it was really exciting, and I did a nice stance to it. I put coilovers and M3 square set of wheels. It looked really cool. The only thing that I didn't like about the car was really slow, just because it's just regular 6-cylinder 2.5. So, and also I put a bigger wheels on it, 18-inch wheels, so it was a little bit difficult for an engine to spin those big wheels. But anyway, I had my fun with it and sold it to California actually. The next vehicle was a quick resale, but I'm glad that I owned that car. It was a 2009 Audi A4 station wagon. It was a B8 body style, 2.0 turbo, and it had 120,000 miles. I think it was a 2-owner car out of California, amazing condition. Really rare spec. It was a Prestige with the S-line with every single option, and like black ceiling and a suede interior, and I think it had a tune and exhaust as well, so it was kind of cool. I paid a lot of money for it. Well, it wasn't a lot for actually that spec, because it was a really rare car, $9,500, and I sold it for $12,600. Just put under 2,000 miles on it. Just overall an amazing car, but I wasn't able to afford to keep it for myself. That's why I sold it that quick, but I made my money and put it towards other cars. And the next car was my 1999 really cheap beater that I bought from the, where it was, I think it was a tow yard. So I got it for $900, and I also had it all filmed and that kind of stuff. It was a 540 BMW E39 with a 6-speed manual transmission. It has a Ramos exhaust that sounded amazing. The engine was really noisy. I think it had like timing chain guides on its way out, but I still put a lot of miles on it. Actually, I put 6,000 miles on it throughout my half a year of ownership, and it was a pretty exciting car for what it was, just because it was cheap and I didn't care, and I drove it everywhere. I was drifting in the desert. I took it to the canyon roads. I took it to the mountain passes and that kind of stuff. So it was amazing. And yeah, by the way, I sold it with 158,000 miles to a guy that lived here in Salt Lake locally, and he just sold it recently with 190,000 miles. So the car still made it, even though the engine was on its way out. The next car was a 2003 BMW 325i. It was a silver, titanium silver over black leather interior. It had a sport package, and it was a 5-speed manual. I actually bought it from Copart as well, and it was an amazing trip to Portland, Oregon. The car had an unknown amount of miles, and it was a clean title. It never been in an accident. It was a one-owner car, really clean example. But it's just the only issue that was with it is that the instrument cluster wasn't working. That's why the auction wasn't able to show the proper miles on the car. So I bought it sight unseen online with literally no idea what's the mileage on it, but just based on the looks, I figured that it would be a low mile car, just because it's been registered about I think it was registered a year. Last time it was registered a year since the car was put on the auction. So I'm pretty sure the car was sitting for a long time, and the person that owned this car just didn't care about it. So the car was at the auction, and I bought it for $3,000, and I sold it for $6,000. And here's the fun part. So I've put a brand new instrument cluster from BMW, got it all reprogrammed, and once it's all came to life, it had a 93,000 miles, which is really low, and for the condition it was in, it was a great deal. So I literally doubled my money. I also put a little bit of money in it too. I did a full cooling service on it, and like spark plugs and basic maintenance, 100,000 mile maintenance to it. One of the sad things that happens is, not sad things, but just one of the minuses from me owning this car was that I actually got it detailed amazingly. I did a really cool pictures, over 200 photos, and I submitted this application to a Bring and Trailer online auction. I hope that this car was special enough, and actually was special enough and clean to me, that they would accept it, just because I saw the similar car running through the auction about 3 or 4 months ago. So I figured that they would accept it, but it looks like the timing was wrong, and they decided not to accept this car. And yeah, I ended up selling it to a guy locally, and he still drives it, and we are friends with him. So yeah, it's in a good condition and in a great shape. He takes care of this car. The next one was my unexpected purchase, that I was actually scrolling through a local marketplace, and I found a vehicle that was the guy was parting it out, and it was literally posted like 2 hours, and after 2 hours I contacted him right away, because I wanted wheels for my 540 sedan that I still had, the $900 sedan. And actually I went there, looked at the car, and he said, oh, you know, I don't have a key for it, and since you need wheels, and I also wanted to get headlights from it, he was like, yeah, just give me a price, give me an offer, and you can take the whole car. Once again, I didn't know if the car was running or driving, and I gave him $200 for it, and he actually accepted it. Again, it was a salvage car, it was sideswiped, and this is the car that actually had the video with the biggest amount of views now. I think it's like over 5,000 views on this video of my project, and it was exciting. I got it for $200, sold it for $1,800 to my neighbor, and she was a careless driver, and she actually had this car running too hot on a really hot day on a highway in a traffic jam, and yeah, her car overheated, and I think the engine seized or something like that. But yeah, again, it was a pretty cool experience for me, and it made my YouTube take off. Well, kind of take off. As I said, it's a lot of use for what it was. The next car was a, oh, this one was a really clean example. I got this one from Spokane, Washington, also from the salvage car auction. It was a 2003 BMW 330i, 5-speed automatic, titanium silver with a gray leather interior. It was a sport package, pretty loaded, and it was pretty low miles, 102,000 miles, and I got it for only $1,400. Once again, it was sideswiped, and I bought sideswiped cars just because it's pretty easy to replace. Just a few body panels, doors, and fender, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was literally the cleanest interior I've ever seen on this old of a car, and literally to this day, the photos that I took for the ad to sell that car is the best photos I've ever taken. I've put about only 2,000 miles on it, but once again, it was a cool experience for me. I also did a bunch of videos on it just as a filler for the content for the channel, and I sold it for $4,900 to a guy from Idaho, and I'm still in contact with him. He's an older guy and he loves the car. The next car on my list, and here's why it's special. It was my 2005 BMW 330 Ci, the ZHP that I bought from Oregon, and this is the one that had a cracked oil pan. And this was my second most extensive mechanical experience that I've done on a car. And yeah, I got it only for $775, but once again, it wasn't running or driving, had airbags exploded, and something that I didn't know, I had a cracked oil pan. That's why the car would need to be shipped from Oregon to Utah. So got a car with 153,000 miles on it, and after I did a oil pan repair that I got for $11 from a junkyard, and it worked just perfectly. By the way, the car had a nice M3 gray exterior. It's silver gray metallic over black leather interior. It was a 5-speed automatic, but for this price it was a great deal. The car had a Dynon chip tune on it, and Dynon strut brace, and also a Dynon exhaust that sounded just amazing. Literally, it had that nice raspy sound, and I think I have a clip of it. Also did a bunch of YouTube videos with it, did a lot of road trips with it, put a bunch of miles on it, did a my first track experience on it, which was amazing. The car just performed perfectly, and it was my first time actually literally pushing the limits of the car, and everything was just fine, even though I had a bunch of miles. I sold it with 163,000 miles, so 10,000 miles over the course of 9 months or so. Also learned a bunch of things on it just because of, again, I was doing a lot of miles and a lot of extensive driving on it, and I want to make sure that everything was fine. So I learned how to do differential fluid change, also how to do a brake flush, and a bunch of other cool things. The only reason why I sold this car is because, first of all, I wanted to jump into a cleaner vehicle that had a better history. But once again, this car was a salvage title. That's why it was at the salvage auction. And I actually upgraded to something nicer after this car, which I will be sharing with you in the next few videos, I think. But yeah, I sold it to a younger girl here locally, and I've contacted her a few times after she bought it, and she loves the car and literally enjoys the hell out of it. So this was a vehicle number 13. The next one would be, what is this? Oh, this one is a really nice car. This one is a 2003 BMW 325xi 5-speed manual, Orient blue, really nice dark blue color, over a black leather. Well, it was actually a leather interior just because it didn't have a premium package, but it still looked really nice. It was a clean car, had tons of miles on it, but it was a one owner example. I once again bought it from the insurance auction, and the reason why is because it had a noisy secondary air pump, and they thought that it was a mechanical issue, so they put it at the auction, and I bought it for $675, which was a steal for the car that had a clean title and was a manual all-wheel drive. Was in really good condition, 226,000 miles, and this is the car that I had a bunch of videos with it as well. Sold it for a $3,700 to a guy from Colorado. He drove all the way here and paid in cash, and literally enjoying the hell out of it once again, because I've contacted him after he bought it. But I sold it with a 235,000 miles, so I've put over, what is this, over 9,000 miles on it. Took it to Montana, took it to Colorado as well, and just drove the hell out of it. And this is the car that actually got stuck in a lake, and I've put a few pictures. I didn't film a video on it. I don't know why I should have, but it was a really nice experience. But I'll share a few pictures with you now. Really clean example. I did a bunch of modifications to it as far as interior goes. Really turned out amazing, and this is probably kind of the car that I regret selling, but I didn't really had use for it just because at that time I had two more vehicles. The next one would be the car that I bought just because I was literally bored, and I had a few spare $100 laying around, and I was like, I either gonna spend it for, I don't know for what, or I'm gonna buy a car with it. So I bought a 1999 BMW 323. Didn't have a bunch of content on it, but just because I didn't have it for a really long time, and I didn't really like that car for some reason. It was pretty rough. I made it kind of clean, but still, it was just something about that car that I don't know, I just didn't want to keep it. And I had a 200,000 miles, actually 199,000 miles. I got it for $425. Once again, I had a side swipe. It was silver titanium over black leather interior, 5-speed manual. Sold it for $2,800. I've put about 3,000 miles on the car, and the cool part about that car is that I got a few interior trim pieces for my, once again, 325 Xi that I sold before, and I got wheels out of it, and yeah, it's just had that old feel of a car. That's why I pretty much sold it. The next vehicle was, let's just switch locations for now. And we are back to where we started. The next car was, I bought it as a backup vehicle. Not as a backup vehicle, but actually I just needed to have a car that had a little bit bigger cargo space, just in case I would need to get more parts for the car that I repair. And it was a 2004 Volvo V40. It had a 4-cylinder 1.9 turbo engine. It was my first Volvo experience, and it was a pretty good car. It looked really good, and I got it for cheap. Once again, I paid $450 for it, once again at the salvage car auction in Idaho. It had 117,000 miles. It was a one-owner car. It had a rear hatch damage, and I kind of repaired it. What literally didn't, I wasn't even buying any parts for it. I just used a hit gun to pull the dents out of the plastic bumper cover, and I kind of used a hammer and chisel just to knock out the big dents out of it. So didn't really film much on it, but I got a cool pictures out of it. It was a 5-speed automatic turbo wagon. It had a really loud turbo. Once I put a cold air intake in it, I had a cold air intake laying around that I literally had no use to it, so I put that thing in, and it made really nice turbo noises out of it. I've put about 4,000 miles on it, took it to California and back, which was pretty cool. The car is really comfy, did a good fuel economy. It's just that I don't know actually why I sold it. I think I sold it just because I once again realized that I didn't have use for it, yeah, it was a good cheap daily driver. Had a nice wheels, good tires. Did I think oil change on it, and I think I've changed like one vacuum line, and that was pretty much it. The car did pretty good. and I sold it for only $1,500. I made a few bucks out of it. Sold it to a girl here locally, and I actually saw it I think about a month ago, and she was just driving happy, and it's really really nice to see a car on the streets. I think this will be the last vehicle on my list. I actually have a few more cars that I'm going to reveal, as I said, in the next videos. Probably it's going to be one at a time, and the next one is really the most special car to me. This is something that I've always wanted to own, and I don't know if I should give it away, but I think I will just do a cold start on it and see if anybody can guess what that is. And yeah, just let me know what car you like the most out of my 16 car ownership, 16 car list, 16 out of all 16 cars that I've owned. Yeah, just put a comment down below and let me know what you think. And I think this will be it for this video, and the next one will be a pretty exciting one. So, but yeah, for now, let me just do the cold start on it. I think every car person that is into really nice and timeless machines already know what this car is.